Hello, welcome back to another rather casual experience. Rules time. Number 1, any Pokemon that faints must be permaboxed. Number 2, I can only catch the first wild Pokemon encountered in each area. Number 3, I can't use any items during battles. Number 4, no overleveling. And finally number 5, I have to set the battle mode to set. Additional rule for the starter. If the last digit of the trainer ID number is 1 to 3, I can only use the grass type starter. 4 to 6, fire type. 7 to 9, the water type, and 0, I can get a free choice. I was quite torn between Pokémon Black and Pokémon Black 2 for a while, but I ultimately chose to do a Pokémon Black run. Pokémon Black mostly only limits itself to Pokémon in Unova, so I figured it'll pose more of a challenge, and would definitely force me to use Pokémon I haven't really used before. And this way I get to do a Pokémon Black or White 2 next. And like my last video, I won't be including all the captures I did in this run, only the ones that contributed to the run. Alright, so my first attempt didn't go so well, so instead of going into the details and making the video longer, I'll just recap the adventure without getting too much into it. Having decided to try out something new, I named my character Jotaro instead of A. I ended up with a 7 for the last digit of my trainer's ID, so I had to choose Oshawott. I yoinked a Pokeball out of the box and beat both Bianca and Cheren. After awkwardly witnessing Bianca's familial circumstances, we headed to the professor's lab and nicknamed the Oshawott. Since we're Jotaro, he had to be named Str Pltnm. Except that it didn't fit the character limit, so this Oshawott would be known as Str Pltnm. We caught Iggy the Lillipup and beat N in a Pokemon battle. After, we caught Polnareff the Patrat and were gifted Monkey the Panseer. Before the Stratton gym, we bested Cheren in a Pokemon battle in the school. After an hour of grinding later, we got our first gym badge with no casualties. Now, here is where my luck started to turn. I encountered a Pidove at Route 3 and accidentally killed it. No matter, as I thought to myself, there will be other chances to catch other Pokemon. I cycled through some mandatory battles as I went through the plot, and I managed to catch a Woobat in the cave west of Route 3. Unfortunately, Str Pltnm had to kick the bucket early as he was killed by a critical hit from a Woobat. Rest in peace. Before the Nakreen City gym, I headed to Pinwheel Forest's exterior in hopes of catching another Pokemon that could help me in the next gym battle. Of course, I accidentally killed it with a critical hit. Just my luck. No matter, we pressed on. To keep things short, I managed to win the second gym badge, but not without casualties. I lost Empress the Woobat and Iggy the Herdier. I was left with Polnareff the Watchog and Monkey the Panseer. I could still save the run, I thought. With high hopes, I went into Pinwheel Forest interior, ready to catch another Pokemon. You know how they say you gotta play around a critical hit? Well, why can't they play around a critical hit? Why must they be like this? At this point, I decided to just count my losses and move on. I called it quits on attempt number 1 and readied myself for another attempt after a good night's sleep. This time, we're Jotaro's nemesis, Dio Brando. But it couldn't fit, so we're just Dio. For the first time ever, I actually got a free choice off my trainer ID. I felt a sort of unfinished business with the Oshawott, so I went for it again. We were able to defeat both our rivals again, and we once again witnessed Bianca's unfortunate family stuff. Naturally, this time we named the Oshawott Zawardo. This little guy has been gifted the power to control time. Hopefully. Our first encounter was a Patrat this time, we named it the Fool. Next one was a Lillipup, I named it Iggy once more. The Panseer gift was a female one this time, so I named her Sun. Before the gym, we battled Cheren at the school for an easy victory with the Fool and Zawardo. For Sillin, I led with Iggy, and didn't even need to switch anyone else in. He endured hits and dished massive damage in return, finally finishing off Sillin's 2 Pokemon with tackles. After getting the first badge, we cycled through a lengthy amount of plot with Fennel and some Team Plasma shenanigans. Cheren then challenges to a fight, but the early rival battles aren't worth mentioning at this point. After this fight, Iggy evolved into a Herdier. At Route 3, we encountered a Blitzel and captured it, naming it Bastet. If you're wondering, these are stand names from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. At the cave, we caught Clash, the Roggenrola. Before the second gym, quite a bit happened. Zawardo evolved into a Duat, and the Fool evolved into a Watchog. At Pinwheel Forest exterior, we encountered a Sock and successfully captured it, naming it Strength. Quite lucky considering the next gym is a normal type gym. With a bit of Audino grinding done, it was time to face Lenora. I led with Strength, making use of the type advantage. Lenora's Herdier was able to tank a lot of low sweeps, but eventually went down after some fight. When it was time for the Watchog, Strength was immediately put to sleep. Strength couldn't wake up after a turn, so I switched for Clash. Clash was also put to sleep, so I had to switch to Zawardo. Zawardo came in and dodged a crunch. 2 Razor Shells later, Zawardo returned triumphantly, winning us the second badge. This time, no casualties. Then, some more plot. Something about a dragon skull, I think. At Pinwheel Forest Interior, we encounter yet another Cottony. This time I was being very careful about the move choice and I promised myself to not get mad at this one. We resolved the situation with the dragon theft and moved on to the big city. North of Castelia City, we encountered a Darumaka. I wanted to name him Hermit Purple, but it couldn't fit, so his name would be Hermit Purr. We mopped off some more plot to the game and proceeded to challenge the Castelia City Gem Leader. For Berg's Whirlipede, I led with Clash. Clash tanked 2 attacks while dishing out his smackdowns, which eventually took down the bug thing. Next was his Leaveney, so I switched for Hermit Purr. Hermit Purr was able to survive 2 Razor Leaves and took down the humanoid Pokemon with 1 Fire Punch. I switched for Zawardo for his double and he was able to finish the fight with 1 Razor Shell. At this point, both Bianca and Cheren's team started to mature and become more worrisome. At Castelia's exit gate, we were stopped by Bianca for a Pokemon battle. This battle wasn't difficult, but it shows that her team is getting a bit more diverse. She led with Herdier, so I sent out Strength, which easily disposed of the Yorkshire Terrier. Next was Hermuna, so I sent in my own Herdier, Iggy. Iggy had to bite her twice, but the pink flying thing went down in the end. Next was her Pignite, which Zawardo one-shotted with a Razor Shell. Last was the Pansage, which Hermit Purr took care of. Right after the gate in the desert, Cheren caught me by complete surprise. I was still confident I'd win as he led with a Pidove. I still had Strength at the first slot, so I switched to Bastet, who makes his battling debut. Bastet downed the bird with 1 Shockwave. Next was Cheren's Servine, which Hermit Purr defeated once more with a Fire Punch. For his Panpur, Bastet came back out and fired off 2 Shockwaves. When it was time for Cheren's Leopard, I wanted to switch. Again, I wasn't careful enough while reading Cheren's team layout, and he caught me by surprise. I didn't notice that he had Pursuit. I tried to switch Bastet out, but the purple leopard caught Bastet with a Pursuit. So down goes Bastet. He had some good moments in this battle, but rest in peace. I sent Strength back out to close the fight. At the Desert Resort, I caught Judgment, the Sandile. Before Nimbasa, Clash evolved into a Boldore. At the Relic Castle, we obtained the Plume Fossil. After a long trip back to Nakreen, we revived the fossil into an Archon. I wanted to name it Magician's Red, but I could only put Magic Red. Over at Nimbasa, we witnessed yet more of Bianca's familial struggle. We then were forced to ride this Ferris wheel, which took forever. I managed to cook dinner and eat it while this cutscene was on. After finishing my dinner, we battled N. N sent out a Sandile first, which Zawardo took care of easily. His Darumaka then came out and was dealt with in a similar manner. His Scraggy was sent out next, and it was a back and forth with Zawardo. Zawardo dealt some damage, then I switched for Strength, which knocked out the Scraggy with a low sweep. For his Sigilyph, I sent out Clash. It was a pretty risky move as Clash tanked 2 attacks that took down his health to orange, but 1 smackdown was all it takes. We won the fight, hopefully never to experience the Ferris wheel again. We did get a close-up of N's face though. Now it was time for Alessa, the electric-type gym leader. She sent out her first Emolga, and I led with Clash. Clash was naturally slower than the Emolga, so he tanked a Volt Switch first. She switched to a second Emolga, and Clash's Smackdown took it down to a Sliver. As she healed, I chose Rock Blast as Clash's next move, which was able to take it down with a 3-hit. Alessa sends out her first Emolga. Before we could move on, we were interrupted yet again by another Cheren fight. This fight wasn't that hard, just a lot of switches for the type advantages. We cycled through more dialogue and finally got the drawbridge lowered. South of Driftvale, we caught a Vanillite at the cold storage. She would be named Geb. We then mopped up Team Plasma in the city's fridge. Then, something quite surprising happened. As I was grinding, Nurse Joy told me that Strength had contracted the Pokerus. This made EV training go by so much faster. Now it was time for Clay, the Driftvale gym leader. He opened with Krokorok and I led Zawardo. He used Taunt while Zawardo ended it pretty quickly with a Razor Shell. Next was his Excadrill, which Zawardo took down with 2 Water Pulses but not without a lot of damage. When it was time for his Palpitoad, I considered switching him out, but decided to stick with it. Zawardo did a good chunk of damage with Grass Knot and tanked a really risky Bulldoze. I knew Clay would heal, so I switched for Strength. Strength had to force his way to victory with a lot of Karate Chops while walking through some damage. After the 5th badge, we were stopped yet again by another rival fight, this time Bianca. Same thing like the last Cheren fight, just a lot of switches for the type plays. Magic Red did make his battling debut here, but nothing really notable happened. At Chargestone Cave, we captured a Joltik. He was named Temperance. Not much further, Professor Juniper gave us the much anticipated lucky egg. During the Team Plasma fiasco, Hermit Purr was able to evolve into a Darmanitan, before being able to exit the cave and was waiting to talk to us again, resulting in a Pokemon battle. Zawarudo took down his Boldor with 2 Razor Shells, while Hermit Purr fire punched the rest of his Pokemon. Right above Mistrilton, I caught Polnareff the Tranquil, which was used as a fly slave until Magic Red can evolve. While grinding, Geb evolved into a Vanillish. After ringing the bell on top of the Celestial Tower, we can finally challenge Skyla at her gym. She sent out her Swoobat first, so I led with a newly evolved Geb. Geb was hit with Acrobatics and she survived with about half health. She would then hit back with an Ice Beam, one-shotting the Swoobat. Next was Skyla's Unfazant, who hit first with a Quick Attack. Geb survived with 19 HP, then one-shotted the bird with another Ice Beam. Here, I had to switch Geb out. I wasn't really sure if Temperance the Joltik could tank a hit from the Swanna, so I played around with Zawarudo and Clash in hopes to inflict some damage. Of course, it didn't really end very well. Clash didn't really have to die here, but some poor decision-making process occurred. In any case, I finally sent out Temperance, who to my surprise was able to tank an aerial ace hit and defeated the Swanna with an Electro Ball. Rest well, Clash. This one is on me. After the gym, N just won't leave us alone, and Temperance evolved into a Galvantula. Before we could proceed, Cheren stopped us yet again for another rival fight. I guess this one is mildly interesting. He started off with his Unfazant, so I sent in Temperance, who was able to finish it with 1 Electro Ball. His Simipour was up next, but Temperance wasn't able to finish it in one go. Temperance got hit by Scald, which left him burned. I didn't want to take any chances, so I switched to Zawarudo. Eventually, Zawarudo was able to take out the Simipour with a Grass Knot, but his HP ended up being too low. I switched to Hermit Purr, who was able to finish things off with Cheren Servine with a Fire Punch and the Leapart with a Hammer Arm. One level later, Zawarudo finally achieved his final form, a Samurott. Following Zawarudo, Magic Red also evolved. He's now an Archeops. I went to Route 18 to collect some items and caught a Scraggy, which I named Kakyoin. Not long after, Kakyoin evolved into a Scrafty. In preparations for the Bryson fight, I trained Sun and evolved her into a Simisear. Originally, Sun was supposed to be a cannon fodder for Bryson, in case things go wrong. But I could not be more wrong. She swept Bryson's team with Flame Bursts, not even a challenge. After the Ice Gym, we had to go through a lot more plot. At the Dragon Spiral Tower exterior, we encountered Mienfoo and named him Afdol. We battled Team Plasma up the tower and witnessed Zekrom for the first time. We had to go back to Nakreen for more cutscenes. Before being able to go to Opalucid, Bianca caught up with us and challenged us to a battle. She sent out her Stoutland, so I led Hermit Purr. Hermit Purr missed his first Hammer Arm and allowed the Stoutland to work up. He hit a second one, though he was unable to one-shot it. I opted for a Fire Punch next, and that wasn't enough to kill it. I decided to switch to Zawarudo, who finished off the oversized Terrier with a Surf after I healed. Bianca sent her Simisage next, and I switched to Magic Red. The Simisage went for a Leer, so Magic Red took no damage on the switch in. One fly later, the Simisage was down and out. Bianca sent her Musharna next, and Magic Red used 2 Crunches to finish it. Came time for her Emboar. Magic Red used a Fly and one-shotted the big Flame Boar. In preparation for Drayden, I taught Zawarudo Blizzard, since we can't get the Ice Beam TM until after the Elite Four. I was a bit nervous for this next gym fight, but Geb really pulled through. I thought I was going to lose Geb to Drayden's Haxorus, but Geb managed to finish all 3 of Drayden's Pokemon with 1 Ice Beam consecutively. Now we're all set for the Pokemon League. While preparing for Victory Road, Geb evolved into a Vanillux. So, funny story here guys. While I was training Afdol with the Audinos, I encountered a shiny one. This was my first time encountering a shiny Pokemon, ever. Naturally, I wanted to catch it, since with the rule set I'm playing under, catching a dupe is allowed if it's a shiny. But you see the bottom right slot? It wasn't Jump Kick before. Afdol had just learned Jump Kick a few levels before and I totally forgot. The move before was Force Palm, and I know for a fact that Force Palm wouldn't have killed the Audino. But I forgot it was now Jump Kick, and this one hurt, man. I spent the next 10 minutes looking at the screen. Well, you know what they say, always pay attention while grinding. After I wiped my tears off my face, we faced Cheren for the final time in this run. Geb took care of his Unfazant and Servine with Ice Beams with no trouble. Then I switched for Zawarudo when his Simipour was sent out. Zawarudo attacked with Grass Knots while tanking Scalds, eventually downing the Monkey. Hermit Purr came out last and finished the fight with a Hammer Arm. We went through the Victory Road gates and ventured forth. Before we faced off with the Elite Four, Afdol evolved into a Mienshao. somewhat ready and heartbroken to face the Elite Four, here's my final team. We've got Geb the Vanillux, Magic Red the Archeops, Hermit Purr the Darmanitan, Kakyoin the Scrafty, Avdol the Mienshao fills the penultimate spot, and we've got Zawardo. I spent quite a bit of thinking about which Elite Four to challenge first, but ultimately I chose Grimesley, the Dark type Elite Four. This fight is the sole reason I fitted Avdol into the team, and for a good reason. Grimesley sent out his Scrafty first, and I led Avdol. Avdol is quite fast and has a pretty good physical attack stat. With the exception being the Scrafty at the front, who refused to go down until 3 hits, Avdol pretty much wiped all of Grimesley's team. Easy first win. I decided to challenge Alder's understudy next, Marshall. Now here's another case of my being careless again on full display. Marshall let throw, so I sent out Magic Red, who was able to take it out with 1 fly. He sent out his Sock next, and for some godforsaken reason, I completely forgot that this blue thing has 30. I even have a Sock of my own in this run. Magic Red hits his fly, but the Sock survived. He hit back with a Stone Edge, and down goes Magic Red. Again, completely my fault. Rest well, birdie. I sent out Zawardo next, who was able to take the Sock out with 2 surfs, albeit tanking a Stone Edge in the process. Next was Marshall's Conkeldurr, so I switched to Hermit Purr, who couldn't really tank damage. I sent Zawardo back out, and surprisingly he was able to one-shot the Conkeldurr with a surf after surviving Stone Edge. Last was his Mienshao. Zawardo definitely won't survive another hit, so I sent in my own Mienshao, Avdol. Avdol tanked a jump kick on the switch-in, leaving his health in the orange. With the big root-held item, Avdol used Drain Punch and recovered most of his HP. And with a stroke of good luck, Marshall's Mienshao missed his jump kick and killed himself in the process. Which is really good, by the way, because I calculated the jump kick's damage while writing the script, and it was 103 damage. Avdol only had 99 HP left. I got really lucky here. One more thing I forgot was healing items. I forgot to buy healing items before going into the Elite Four, so I had very limited healing items. At that point, my butt grew even sweatier. I went for Caitlyn next, not sure about what would happen. She sent out her Runiclus, and I led Kakyoin. Kakyoin had black glasses, so he was able to take out the Runiclus in one go. Next, she sent out her Sigilyph, and I switched to Zawardo. Zawardo survived 2 big hits, and I went for a really risky Blizzard. However, RNGesus was with me that day, and Zawardo was able to hit the Blizzard and one-shot the Sigilyph. I switched for Hermit Purr for the Gothitelle and was able to force it down with 2 Fire Punches. Came the Musharna, Hermit Purr was able to take it down with a combination of Fire Punch and Flare Blitz. It got really close for Zawardo, but a win is a win. And last was Chantal. I really wasn't sure what to do for this battle, since I didn't really have a surefire strat to safely finish the battle. But Kakyoin proved me wrong. He just straight up one-shotted every Pokemon in Chantal's team with a crunch. I really thought the Golurk would be able to tank it, but I guess not. Hats off to you, Kakyoin. With that, we finished the Elite Four, losing Magic Red in the process. I really didn't want to lose any Pokemon at this point because we still have 2 battles left, and those 2 battles are back to back. Magic Red would have been super useful there. So I reluctantly made my way to the Champions Room to find Alder has been beaten by N. Then we had to navigate our way through N's castle and found a really nice surprise. We can go back. This means that I can snatch one more Pokemon from my PC and grind for a bit while N waits for me in the final room with Zekrom. I added strength back to the team and grinded everyone to the level cap of 52 since that was the highest level of N's Pokemon. Ghetsis will be considered the quote-unquote champion of this run, and his highest level Pokemon is level 54. As usual, we Master Balled the legendary Pokemon and named it Shinchan. Off to the PC you go. Now it was time to face N. N led with his Zekrom and I sent out Geb. As expected, he started off with a Fusion Bolt, so I chose Ice Beam. Geb survived in the orange, and the Ice Beam left the Zekrom with a sliver of health. So close. N would go for a heal here, so I just chose Blizzard as Geb's last move. The Blizzard luckily hit and took down the Zekrom completely. I was really lucky with the Blizzards in this run. Next was N's Klinklang, so I sent out Avdol. Avdol negated the damage on the switch-in with a Drain Punch and took it out with a Jump Kick. Avdol also managed to take out N's Vanillux with a Jump Kick right after. Now, time for the Archeops. I switched to Zawardo, hoping I could take it out with a Surf, but the damage on the switch-in was just too big. The Archeops was faster, and the Stone Edge hit a critical hit. There was no running from that one. Zawardo kicks the bucket, and I lost my starter. Rest well, Zawardo. I sent in Hermit Purr next and hit 2 superpowers to take it to the red. With his health in the red as well, Hermit Purr outsped the bird and finished it off with a fire punch. My butt grew increasingly wetter. Last was N's Caracosta, and I switched to Strength, who tanked an Aqua Jet in the switch-in. Strength hit his best shot with close combat, but the Caracosta held on with Sturdy. I shouldn't have done close combat because the turtle hit back with a waterfall and completely decimated Strength. I was making really bad calls here. I sent out Afdol after to close the fight with a Drain Punch. With 2 Pokemon gone, we beat N. He talked to us for a bit after the battle, but Ghetsis ultimately interfered and chose to battle us himself. After I changed my underwear, we started the battle. Ghetsis sent out his Cofagrigus, and Geb was still in the first slot. I switched for Kakyoin, who was hit by a Shadow Ball on the switch-in, getting his special defense lowered. Kakyoin went for a Crunch, which downed the Cofagrigus in one shot, although he got his ability changed to Mummy. Next was the almighty Hydreigon, and the sole reason I taught Kakyoin Dragon Claw. But Kakyoin wouldn't even get the chance to use it as he got decimated with a Focus Blast. I wasn't really sure who to send out here, so after about 5 minutes of thinking, I sent out Afdol. Afdol is faster, and Hydreigon has a 2x weakness to fighting attacks. Afdol just needs to hit this jump kick. And he did, one-shotting the OP Dragon. Ghetsis sent out his Bouffalant next, but it was one-shotted as well with a jump kick. The Electros was next, and I decided to go with a U-turn. It did a nice chunk of damage, and I switched for Geb, which had no weakness from the Electros' move pool. Geb tanked a Wild Charge, but killed it with an Ice Beam in the next turn. Came the Bisharp. I decided I would just sack Geb since this was the end of the run. Somehow they both missed their first turn, but Geb was able to hit a Blizzard at the end. Geb died to a Stone Edge. Rest well, Ice Cream Buddy. Afdol came back out and took care of the rest. He Drain Punched the Bisharp and Jump Kicked the Seismitoad twice, bringing the run to an end. At first, I thought this run would take about 3 to 4 attempts, and it could very well have taken that many. I got lucky in numerous parts of the run, I think, being able to hit moves that aren't 100% accurate. And in case you guys were wondering, the answer to this simple riddle over at my community post is yes. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and hitting the bell. I'll be putting out more contents like this. Also, follow my Twitch. Hope I can see you guys during some of my streams. Thank you for watching.